computer. Okay, I am so delighted and so happy to start the fourth meeting for today, live on Facebook, to honor the life and work of Leonard D, our friend and teacher and inspiration for so many of us. And I hand it over now to Sara.
Thank you, Heike. I'm just so glad that everyone is here. I'm really excited that we have so many of our new people and trainees and reps from Holland, the Holland group, because it's just been so excited, Dorien, with seeing the community just explode and flourish there. We're really proud of you guys and just so happy to have your energy here, celebrating Leonard with us today. And yes, Heike, like you said, it's just Leonard was so many things to so many people, a friend, a teacher, a guru, instigator of triggers, and just like family to so many of us. And he just was really magical in his ability to be present and connect with people and hold that space of love and compassion. And Heike, I peeked in this morning at 2 a.m. when my son woke me up in the middle of the night and I couldn't get back to sleep. And you were sharing about how people get into their triggers around Leonard. And I think that, that's something that was just about the experience of being in the presence of someone that had been doing connected breathing and healing with the elements for 50 years. I have goosebumps just thinking about it, just being in his presence it was so pure and so clean that people's stuff would just automatically purify and come up. And so it was a very deep process, a very complex process for a lot of people, but just very beautiful and such a gift that we were able to be with him and have that life experience with him. And our mission at RIBA, Rebirth International Breathwork Association, is really to not just preserve the integrity of his teachings and continue his mission in the world, but also to be the embodiment of the love that he was. We just learned so much by being in his presence. He really did teach with his presence. And that's an invitation that we all have to do, to really become that pure presence and that love and compassion and wild mission in the world. I mean, he impacted millions of lives of people on the planet. So I feel that, even though he's not here with us in his body, he is very much here with us in presence. And we all can access that, whether we've seen him in the body or not. And so I'm just forever grateful for that connection. And also this community. I feel that we are his living legacy. And it's a very rich community. We're a small community. We're also large. It's a very interesting paradox that we're in here. But I'm just grateful to be here with you all today and to celebrate and really honored Leonard, his life's work, his essence, and his mission, and all of the goodness that it has brought so many people. So Peace, I think I'm going to hand it over to you, and we will read through some affirmations. And if you just want to tell the group how we're going to work that on a Zoom call.
Absolutely. Well, first I want to say, just to add to all of this, not only Leonard's impact, the extent, the breadth of his impact, the plethora of ideas and experiments and topics that he touched on, touching every aspect of society. And also just to acknowledge that he was actively out there sharing for 6 decades, from the 60s straight through till 2019 when he left his body. And so I just want to also be able to touch on some of those ideas that are maybe lesser known. And we'll like neighborhood representation and prosperity is fairly well known, but to get into some of that and the scriptural work and how teaching people to organize, and just every aspect of our lives. Once I met Leonard, that was it. He touched every aspect of my life. Nothing was left unimpacted. And so that being said, we're going to start the way all meetings were started by Leonard, with some affirmations followed by breath work, and then we'll go into the sharings. So I'm going to read from a list of affirmations called Physical Immortality Affirmations by God. And this is a new, more of one of the latter compilations of affirmations from our material. And I'm going to read it, and everybody else other than Sara will be muted, and you repeat back muted, so we don't get the whole, reverberation, and Sara will repeat the affirmation back to me. And I'm just going to be doing it in I'm not going to personalize it, since this is going to be for all of us. Okay, so we're beginning. Intelligent energy, Shiva Shakti, takes care of us whether we are looking or not.
J. And J means victory. It's like a celebration.
Yeah, J.
Intelligent energy, Shiva Shakti, takes care of us when we are not looking. J.
J. This intelligent energy is the source of all body cells and atoms. J.
This intelligent energy is the source of all body cells and atoms. J.
This intelligent energy can heal anything when we get our mind, our negative thoughts, beliefs, and feelings out of the way. J.
This intelligent energy can heal anything when we get our mind, our negative thoughts, beliefs, and feelings out of the way.
J.
J.
Changing our thoughts and beliefs and feelings is easy. It just takes a little work with affirmations. We are in charge of our own minds. J.
Changing our thoughts and beliefs and feelings is easy. It just takes a little work with affirmations. We are in charge of our own minds. J.
It is fun to be a young immortal. In the immortality game, young extends until we are at least 1,000. We are still a beginner until we are at least 500. I am only a young immortal now. J.
J. It is fun to be a young immortal. The immortality game. In the immortality game, young extends until we are at least 1,000. We are still a beginner until we are at least 500. I am only a young immortal now. J.
Immortality takes no effort. Killing ourselves takes effort. We have to be immortal to kill the body. I choose the perfection and health of my amazing body. J.
J. Immortality takes no effort. Killing ourselves takes effort. We have to be immortal to kill the body. I choose the perfection and health of my amazing body. J.
And the last one for now. Intelligent energy is the building block of the universe and the perfection of my body. J.
J. Intelligent energy is the building block of the universe and the perfection of my body. J.
Thank you. And so Heike, I believe you have the controls to, well, Dorien, you're, oh, okay. I hand it over to Dorien for the breath.
Thank you so much, Peace, and Sara and Heike for sharing. I personally have not met Leonard in the living flesh, in the living body, but I feel very touched by all of his teachings. And when I found Rebirthing, I really found home. I really felt like everything that Rebirthing taught me just clicked in some way, just connected all together, and I really felt like it was everything that I once or ever believed in, and everything just fell into one big puzzle. And I'm still so happy and grateful that I found Rebirthing, and I'm very happy to see some of our trainees in the Netherlands, and also very happy to meet some other people that I haven't met before, and it's really wonderful to connect with the community. So thank you all so much for being here. Let's do some breathing exercises. That's also part of how we start every morning in the training, and I believe that that's also how Leonard started every morning in the training. So let's start with the 20 connected breaths, in case you don't know them. We breathe 4 times short in and out through the nose, one time very long in and out through the nose, and we repeat that 4 times. And we sit up straight, we just ground ourselves a little bit. You can close your eyes or keep them open, whatever you prefer. And I count with my hand, but you can also count for yourself. Let's start at 3, 2, 1. Just keep your eyes closed for a little bit longer to feel what the breath has moved into your body. Feel the sensations, maybe warmth or cold. Maybe you feel tingling, and the energy is present in your body, and just enjoy. So for the next exercise, we will be breathing the same way. And the difference is that we will put our tongue in between our upper lip and teeth. And that looks a little bit funny, but we will do it anyway, even on camera. So 4 short ones, 1 long breath. We repeat that 4 times, and we breathe connected. So there's no pauses. Let's start at 3, 2, 1. Sorry. Wow, please continue. Oh man.
Dorien, you want me to step in for a moment, or are you all right?
Please do. I'm just going to get some
Okay.
water.
Sure. So this next one, we'll do 20 connected breaths through the nose with the mouth open. So the jaw nice and relaxed. This helps to relieve tension and emotional energy, but still breathing in and out through the nose with the jaw relaxed and open. Good. And just keeping your eyes closed, notice how you're feeling. Any sensations? Dorien, I'll pass it back to you if you'd like.
Thank you. I'm not sure. I still feel like there's something there. So let's see
Okay.
what the breathing exercises do, but it's fine. If I mute myself halfway, please take over, okay?
Okay, no problem.
Okay. So let's do the 20 connected breaths, breathing through the mouth. So it's the same exercise. The only difference is that instead of using the nose for the breathing, we use mouth breathing. And that really allows us to access all the emotions that we have, unprocessed emotions. So I'll count with my hand, breathing in and out through the mouth, connected, 4 times short, 1 time long. Let's go. 3, 2, 1. Keep your eyes closed for a little bit. Just feel the difference between the different exercises. So for the next exercise, what we will do is we will use alternate nostril breathing. Just to give you a little explanation, we breathe in and out through the nose again, but we alternate nostrils. So we first start closing our right nostril, inhaling through the left nostril, then exhale, then closing the left nostril, exhaling through the right nostril, then inhaling through the right, closing the right, exhaling through the left, and that's one round. And then we will continue doing that for 3 rounds. Yes? Okay, so let's start. You can put your middle finger on your third eye, or your index finger on your third eye, or both, and then close your nostrils with your thumb and your ring finger. Let's start with an exhale and inhale through the left. Yeah, so let's do one more, and that is the alternate nostril breathing with a mantra, with our affirmation. And for the ones that don't know, we repeat a mantra every time we hold the breath after an inhale. So after the inhale, we close both nostrils, we hold the breath, and then we repeat our affirmations or our mantra 3 times, if you have a short mantra. So for example, let's just use Om Namah Shivaya if there is no mantra that comes to mind or no affirmations that you're working with currently. We repeat Om Namah Shivaya 3 times at the top, and then we exhale, and then we inhale, then we repeat the mantra 3 times, and then we exhale. And we do that for 3 rounds the same way. Okay, let's go. Just wait till everybody is finished, until Heike takes over and gives us the beautiful meditation with the 20 connected silent breaths. Thank you, Heike.
Thank you, Doreen. Yes, we're going to do the 20 connected breaths, but we are not stopping with 20, and we do it silently. Leonard called it pure energy breathing. We are breathing so gentle and so softly that there's no sound on inhale or exhale. And we are breathing divine energy. And it's connected breathing through the nose, in and out, 4 short and 1 long one, and just keep continuing to breathe this way. You can close your eyes. Breathing so softly and so gentle. power and relaxation at the same time, Leonard said, is an unbeatable combination. We are breathing divine energy, which relaxes our physical body, our emotional body, and our mind becomes more still. Feel the energy coming into your body. Notice which place it is coming into your body. And notice the power of that energy. Thoughts will pop up and you just allow them to come into your mind without getting attached to them and letting them go. In that silence, wait for the next thought. It will come. It's okay. That's the job of the mind, to think and let it go. Breathing in and out. Notice the quality of that thought that pops into your mind. Is it a thought that is uplifting? Is it a thought in harmony with your divine nature? A loving, kind, nurturing thought. We have that freedom of thought. In that space between your thoughts, you are pure in your essence. You're the divine essence in your thinking as well as in that space between your thoughts. And we can ask, is there a message for today, for this beautiful meeting, of something for you to share? And in that silent space, I would like to invite Leonard to be present with us here today. In his essence, always present. I like to invite all the saints and Babaji to be with us today, guiding our thoughts. And I want to give thanks and gratitude for this community coming together, sharing about Leonard's life and work. Take 3 deep, noisy breaths. And just notice the power of the breathing. Thank you. So this is the last round of our full day of honoring Leonard, and we've already had 3 beautiful meetings. And in the first meeting, we had lots of people from India and Australia. and in that time zone, and you can watch it on Facebook. The German meeting was Lamia and me. We talked about Leonard's work, and then we had a Spanish meeting with Maria and Francisca, and now we are here. I hand it over to Sara or Peace.
I don't mind taking it over from here a little bit.
Sure.
So I want to touch a little bit on some of the ideas themselves, because a lot of these were openers for further exploration, and people have taken them off and continued the work with them. And we have Sermon Gilles here with us today, who does a lot of work with prosperity, and Jahn Hooks, who does a lot of work with prosperity, but also he has a focus on the scriptures that, there are fewer people, my sense is from my experiencing, focusing on that. So I'm hoping he will speak a little bit about the scriptures that are behind some of that Leonard explored as well, and how he brought them forward. And Jahn continues, or continues in his own exploration, and overlaps with Leonard. And I would like to then speak a little about neighborhood representation and the other ways, the more invisible, behind the scene ways that Leonard influenced my life. So I'd like to start with Anne, since the prosperity work was probably one of the early visible works that Leonard presented.
Thank you, Peace. I just got this notice from her about 2 minutes before I signed on when I talk on prosperity, so I want to say that. Number two, given what happened at the beginning of me signing on, I know that at the beginning, I must have a lot more work to do on myself, not only in conception, but now there are people that are now thinking of preconception. So what was going on preconception? So we're expanding out into new vistas that we haven't looked in before. But as I signed on, evidently the video of Leonard was on at the same time. So that's one thing. And then I had my dogs. I had my grand dog here, and they were fighting underneath me. And so all of this stuff happens. And, I take that as a sign from myself, or maybe even a sign from Leonard, as you ask about getting a sign from Leonard, that there's some work for me in the beginning. And I just want to say that work does not have to be heavy. It does not have to be difficult, but I think we need to undertake it with joy. Because if we don't undertake it with joy, we miss out in the passion of life. So if I begin any kind of work on myself, it's not to make myself a better person. We don't need to be better people. It's really to make our lives just more effective. It's to make them better. It's to make them brighter. And so I always want to say, we are not broken. We never were. We never have been. We couldn't be. And we undertake this work with a sense of ease and presence. I'll also say that I'm sniffing a little bit because the meditation brought tears to my eyes. So now, and I didn't have a Kleenex, so now I've got that snot going. And as I used to say, I'm somewhat outrageous. And, Leonard was extremely outrageous, and he just did. I used to think that when I would see somebody snort, and then they spit it out, I thought that was the worst thing in the world. But I was with Leonard in a car one time, and he goes, and he spits it out the window, and I go, well, maybe I'll have to reevaluate that. Because he was really into not swallowing. He didn't want you to swallow your mucus. And so beginning with that, I was very interested with Leonard's prosperity work, because I was always so hand to mouth. It was difficult for me by the time I had met him financially. I had decided in a very naive way that when my ex-husband and I got divorced, that I didn't want anything, that I would just be like the people that had God provide a miracle every day, financial wise. And so I didn't ask for very much in the divorce, not my fair share. I like the idea of just not having much money and just trusting the universe would manifest the money for me. Well, that was a very idealistic idea. It is not a good idea. I would never recommend it. But what it made me do was thirst for ideas that would feed my prosperity consciousness and help me pay my bills without sweat. And in some way, somehow I was able to go, even though going through difficult times, to always pay my bills and always have a perfect credit rating. And that was when I was very much upside down every month in terms of my income. So I would use all these principles in order to attract money into my life to pay my bills. When I met Leonard, I did not understand why he talked about money so much. I didn't understand his prosperity rationale. And when I found out, and I know all of you know the story, and that is that when he got Campbell Hot Springs, that he had 10 other backers, and the mortgage was $10,000 a month. And one by one, everyone backed out except Leonard. And Leonard then took on the $10,000 a month note. And this was years ago. $10,000 was more then. He took on the $10,000 a month note. And that meant that every month before he took care of his own needs, he had to come up with $10,000. And I started thinking, when you are able to meet that kind of commitment and you're self-employed, that takes a tremendous amount of creativity. And I don't think anybody on the planet had more creativity when it came to money and prosperity than Leonard. It was amazing.
You know, when you say that the idea that you wanted the ideal of producing in the moment, I think that, you know, there's the abstract and the subtle, and that's where a lot of the work and the power is. However, it doesn't mean the practical aspects and don't matter or should be. It's not either or, it's both and. So I just wanted to say that, you know, you can be working with that abstract. And when we work with ideas of, you know, our self-worth and our willingness and our deservingness and how that the universe is abundant and, you know, all of that, that's the basis of, you know, being willing and open to in practical application and ideas that of putting your ideas into action in the material world. And yeah, so it's interesting to hear that, because and I also have to say that I saw, when I look at Leonard's earlier work, he was talking a lot about having different accounts and you know, the you know, setting up this framework for gathering, you know, and for different purposes, so that the purpose draws the money to it as well. So I think that it's that I know he worked with both of those things together, and, you know, there are different levels, and we're working.
Passion and practicality.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did work with both of them. And I had to work with both of them too, once I found out where I had placed myself by taking away a regular income and becoming more of an entrepreneur than I had wanted to be. But I decided that I must be that. Leonard came to speak one time. This was maybe one of the last times I heard him, which would have been years ago in Houston. And he was just so wild when it came to money. I mean, he was just like, hey, you know, if you're not sending me money, then, you know, there's something wrong. And it was like, who acts like that? I mean, some people were taken aback, but I was thinking, you know, it takes a lot of guts just to say, if you're not supporting me financially, there's something wrong here. I mean, that is very powerful. But he came and he told about this investment, somebody in Canada, and that if you would invest $500 a month, that you could get a $500, that he could give you a $500 a month return on that. And so Leah Holtzman said, I really wouldn't do that if I were you, but I started thinking about it. And I thought, well, what would it be like to think that with the resources that I have, that I could get $500 extra a month passive income. And I thought, well, suppose I could get more than that. And so I just began to use, and Leonard always talked about picturing things, and I began to picture getting that. And I just absorbed my consciousness in receiving those checks because I needed the money. I mean, it wasn't to make myself a better person, to get people to admire me. I needed the money. And what did happen was that I did find an investment that was very similar to that provided me with an income for years and years and years. And if it hadn't been for that one time that I went with Leonard, my whole life would have been absolutely different. And I can't tell the turning points financially in my life that were influenced by the things that he taught. Now, I don't even know if I remember the 5 biggies. And, he always talked about 5 biggies, and I can't recite what the 5 biggies. The one I always remember is that he did talk about the reincarnation thing and money. And that was the one that I never got. And the other ones I'd read and got that one, got that one, got that one, got one. That's what we're going to. So I can't speak to the 5 biggies.
But that's we'll have others speaking.
He had this affirmation, and I don't know if y'all remember it, but it was, God supplies all my needs according to his riches and glory in Jesus Christ. And that is one that I heard very early on. And it was a little odd, with him having a Jewish background and everything, but he did talk about the Bible a lot. And so I took that affirmation on, and as I know you all know, that sometimes when we're really down and out emotionally, that an affirmation is like a raft that just takes us across the troubled waters. Whether we believe it or not, it's like, maybe this is possible. And so that affirmation served me for a very long time. He also gave me, I think the supreme prosperity affirmation is probably Om, but Leonard imparted Om Namah Shivaya, and which is an affirmation I still use. And I do consider that a prosperity affirmation. So I'll say that. And, I could go on forever because I am pretty verbose, but I'll just close it with that.
Thank you so much, Anne. And I so appreciate you showing up again and willing to share with us again and again and again.
I just will, thank you. On the I will mention that I have an abundance affirmations page on Facebook, and please participate in that as well. And so love to have you join Abundance Affirmations. It's the one with the money tree on it, because there's more than one.
I love it. And I share it to the Rebirth International community group quite often. And I invite you to post and share from your page. Your whole page will come over, and it'll come shared from your page. So please feel free to share your page in the group as well. Okay. Your posts.
Thank you. Thank you very
Anne.
much. So I think the basic of all Leonard's teachings is that if we connect with the divine power and with clear thoughts and instructions and to life, or to ourselves for how to live our life, that we can produce results. And he always pointed out that the mind can be either our friend or our enemy. And it can be the worst enemy if we have thoughts of lack and thoughts of fear and doubt. And it can be a real helpful tool. So he's considered the breath and the mind the king and the queen of human consciousness. And that's one of the points that were very important to him.
Yeah. Thank you. Heike, would anybody else like to say anything with regard to that, or before we move on to Jahn Hooks? We see Simon raising his hand. Can you unmute yourself, or do you have to do that, Heike?
No, he can.
Okay, you can unmute yourself, Simon. There.
Yeah. Speaking on Zoom is not something I typically do. I still have a very deep animal mistrust of the multi-locating techno world. But one of the other things, just before we do move on, which is something maybe John is going to mention, but one of the facts that I really liked about Leonard was the fact he was interested in the bigger picture. His self didn't end at the ish, you know, he wasn't selfish. He was a bigger picture. And I think because much of from my point of view, from much of what I've seen of the sort of the self-improvement, particularly in aspects relating to prosperity, and, you know, because I'm wittering here, I'm going to pull back. I wanted to say thank you because Leonard, he referenced and recognized that the tool we use to exchange our wealth is sick. And unless we fix that problem, the world is going to continue to keep getting sicker. And that's one of the things, the fact that Leonard would talk about, people, I couldn't hear it at the first, you know, it's very hard to hear some of the things he was saying because it was so simple. It was so simple that it seemed wrong. And I'm wittering, so I'm going to pull back, but I wanted just to make that point that it was the bigger picture stuff, the difference between money and wealth was something Leonard was very aware of. And for that, I'm ever grateful. Thank you, Leonard. So yeah, I'm going to mute myself and pull back now. So
Thank you, Simon. I'm really glad that you said that. I want to speak to that a little bit more because I think it was so, I know for me, it was just so confusing at first being in Leonard's trainings because here he is, you know, he's got breath work and healing with the elements and physical immortality. And then he's got this huge focus on money and responsible citizenship and neighborhood representation and alternative community currencies. And it was just, I couldn't grok it all in my mind. Like, how do I, like, who is this guy? What is he doing? And why aren't we focused on this? And it took me a long time to really let all of that sink in. And I think you said it so beautifully that our money system and the way that we exchange ideas and goods and services is, I think you said it's sick. There's a sickness in our money system. And so the value and the beauty of local currencies and, you know, his mission of we have the right to print our own money. I mean, that would just plug people in right there. Of course, he didn't mean, you know, printing knockoffs of your currency, but creating your own currency. Yes, John, thank you. It's upside down. Flip it over for us. Yeah, beautiful. I've got some of that somewhere. That he created his own money system called the Love Notes. It's beautiful. It's spiritual. It's based in just the spiritual wealth and abundance, that there is no lack in the universe. It's not a debt-based money, that we are all sufficient. And I want to mention there's a great documentary that is free. You can watch it. It's in the Common Creatives. It's called The Money Fix. And I know the producer, he's a wonderful guy out of Portland. And he released this documentary about our money system and debt-based money system. Versus like a natural, what I would call divine money system and way of exchanging ideas. Dorien, okay, I see that you need to leave in about 10 minutes. We'll get you some closing comments. Thank you. But it's a wonderful documentary. He released it right before the market crash in 2007. And honestly, it wasn't until I saw that documentary that it really drove home for me the importance and the relevance, the spiritual and ethical relevance and mission of our money system, and putting it back in the hands of the people, and finding alternative currencies and alternative means of exchanging ideas and goods and services. So I'll leave it at that. But
I'd just like to say something to the bigger picture, because Leonard was always concerned how we can live a life in truth, simplicity and love, which meant the ethical aspects of living and relating with each other and taking care of the planet, taking care of each other. And we are teaching that in our trainings. And so I understand, Dorien, you have to leave, but I would like to say a little bit about Dorien. Dorien is now organizing the trainings with me in Holland. And so we are continuing Leonard's work. And Leonard had that outline of the 3 weeks, and we at Reba with Sarah, Peace, and Irene, we we structured it more. And so I handed over to Dorien to share a little bit about her experience, because you are the new generation of rebirthers, and anything that you would like to share with us.
So thank you, Heike. Yes, I found rebirthing when I was traveling in Bali, and I ended up magically in a rebirthing breathwork session. And then that same evening, I found Heike online, because I knew that I needed to do rebirthing more and more. And about a month later, I was in Heike's training center and learning everything about rebirthing breathwork, and also learning about Leonard, because before that I didn't know him. And I had the honor and I was so grateful that I could have almost, well, we had a one-on-two experience in the training center that day. So I got a lot of quality time with Heike, and a lot of her personal sharings about memories with Leonard, and I just really loved that so much. And I remember a picture of Leonard above our couch in our seminar room, and I would just look at that every day and be so grateful that you know, he manifested all of his wisdom and all of his love and all of his everything that came through for him, that he manifested that into something very tangible and something that we can continue spreading, because it touches so many lives. I see that now when we are doing the trainings in the Netherlands. Since last year, we've trained a little less than 40 rebirthers in the Netherlands, and it is just so amazing to see how what the ripple effect is of, you know, training someone and then them sharing the work with other people, and then them being very enthusiastic about how it has changed their lives. And I just wish that Leonard knew, well, he knows, I know that, but I wish he could be here and see, well, the amount of people that have been touched by his work. And I am just so grateful that I found rebirthing in this sacred form as the way Leonard created it, because nowadays there's so many types of breathwork, and I believe every form of breathwork is healing in some way, but I'm just very, very happy that I found it, that the way that Leonard intended it to be and the way he wanted it to be, because I feel like this is such a complete and wholesome and profound way of living. And I'm very honored to be passing on his work, even though I didn't meet him in person, but I'm really happy to be standing next to Heike and doing the trainings in the Netherlands, and now to be part of Reba. And I just feel very honored and very happy and blessed. So thank you so much. Thank you, Leonard. And thank all of you. I mean, thank you to all of you for being here and to sharing this with each other.
Thank you, Dorien.
Thank you.
Dorien.
And we are still doing the prosperity consciousness consultation and all the trainings. So, I mean, Leonard wrote that little booklet 60 years ago or something, and it's still current with what's going on and how to upgrade our consciousness about prosperity. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that is some timeless wisdom that we have on paper in articles and ideas that he put on out into the community, and how it touches our lives. So,
Yeah.
My favorite quote from that prosperity consciousness consultation that touched me very deeply, and I've been looking to find it to get the exact words, and I haven't been able to, but it basically is saying that one of the purposes is to learn to talk about money, to work with money without losing our humanity. And we see so much loss of humanity around dealings with money. I mean, to extraordinary, horrendously destructive ends. And that's the heart. I think that sums up Leonard for me. To learn how to be in relationship in all matters without losing our humanity, our love, our connection. our relationship.
With nature and with other people and with our true inner self as well. Yes.
So thank you.
Yes, our next training is coming up. Actually, we are only 2.5 weeks to go, and then we will be again in community for 3 weeks, and it will be all about Leonard's teachings. And we will do vision quests like sitting with fire. We will do the breath work just like we did it in his trainings, and we will do all the topics that he inspired us, and we added a few more. But the basic teaching of Leonard is still very appropriate and very deep and meaningful and transforming life. So yeah, I'm grateful for Leonard's ideas and the deep, profound healing that happens in our lives. We have a couple of people that did the training with us, so maybe at this point we could, before we go over to Jahn, maybe Irene or Machtel would like to say something about how Leonard's teachings continue. Irene, would you like to share?
Well,
Yes.
I could share a little bit about my experience in the training. First of all, I want to express my thankfulness that I'm allowed to be part of this beautiful community. So thank you for inviting me to this beautiful gathering. And I just finished the training in May, and it was a really profound experience for me in my life. And rebirthing breathwork really changed my life also. And I came in a little bit late, and I was out of the video because I was really have to prep some dinner. But I was late because I gave a rebirthing session this afternoon. And I'm guiding a client through a full journey, and that it's just so beautiful to see the transformations, and all that's happening in each single breathing session, but also in the long run, building up from the first to now the 7th one, and so that's a gift at its own, that I can guide people through those sessions, and that I can give them such powerful tool for self-care and self-healing. And that's exactly what how I experience it for myself. It just so much adds on to my ability to carry myself and all that's life bringing on your path, what the good and the bad, the ugly, let's put it like that. And it really is really precious for me for the capability of holding myself with all that is and all that's coming onto my path. So and now I'm really looking forward to also be an assistant in the first week of the training in about 3 weeks. So really looking forward to dive back into that beautiful and loving and safe container with Heike and Dorien. So really looking forward to that. And I think that's it for what I wanted to share.
Thank you.
Thank
The
you.
power of the breath is the same, and so we are still doing it in individual sessions, and it's part of the transformation into the new era, the new time.
Dear all, I have to leave. I'm sorry. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dorien. Wonderful to have
Thank
you
you.
here.
Wonderful. Have a beautiful evening.
You too. Bye.
See you soon. Okay.
I think it's really magical. Leonard would always say that, well, what did he say? Pretty much every second and every moment of every day, someone is being initiated into the power of their own breath for the first time. And
somebody learns to breathe on this planet.
yeah, yeah. And it, we can say that. And for people that haven't had the experience, it's just, it's an intellectual idea, but once you've experienced it and continued on with it, it's really, yeah, it's just magical. And I'm excited for where we can go with this as humanity. If this becomes like basic common knowledge, where everyone does get that healing manual, gets the manual for being a human being, and this is how your breath works, this is how it's designed, your body already knows this, and we're just reminding it and integrating this into our culture and our society again. It's exciting to think about where we're headed in my vision for our future. And many people share that with me, I know.
Well, I think that's a good lead in, that it's being integrated into our society again, and that it's built into, it's the appearance of this is in the scriptures. A lot of the scripture that Leonard studied and Jahn also studies. So I'd like to turn it over to Jahn and have him speak about that.
Unmute my hey.
Hey.
Something that came up. I don't know if Leonard ever mentioned this in any of his books or not, but just the word prosperity is pro-spirit. Is pro-spirit. The spirituality at the end of that definitely comes from spirit. And that that word is basically like the same phrase in the Bible that says, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all things shall be added unto you. That's what prosperity means. When you're pro-spirit, all the other great things shall be added unto you. In the scriptures, we don't find, if you really are jumping into the scriptures, we do find that wealth is esteemed on high, and there are places where it is confusing, because where they said money is the root of all evil. Leonard definitely had to investigate that phrase, and what did he say, that the lack of money or poverty was the root of all evil?
That's a famous quote. I think Dale Carnegie or Reverend Ike, or both or all of them, and Leonard.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think any of us who meditate on it will come up with a similar idea that like money, even the word money itself it starts with MON. That's like monotheism, monastery, the monad. That's the one. And that's that one that Leonard would always speak about when he would speak about ones and zeros, how money is just ones and zeros. That is all it is. It is totally in those are the things we meditate on God. When I meditate on God, I meditate on God as one, and I meditate on God as none. Those two things are what gives me the greatest contemplations of God. And then I think about, in the scriptures, they have something called the Chintamani stone. In Sanskrit, mani, and in Tibet, the mani stone is the wish fulfilling jewel. Mani, it's almost the same exact syllable as money. The mani, the wish fulfilling jewel. And I see in our time, we have basically began to utilize money in the same way as that wish fulfilling jewel that the scriptures speak about. Now,
That's interesting. I think of money, when we talk about money systems, Leonard used to say that in order for them to work, they have to be circulating and they have to reach every part of for anyone that's required to use money to
Yeah.
exchange. The supply has to be there, and without the supply, the system doesn't work. It would be like cutting off circulation to a part of your body. It doesn't work. And I know I've shared this before, that when Leonard asked me to contemplate, physical immortality, when the first thing that came up was, I can't afford to live that long, and how we have replaced our life current, that's our vital currency, with a symbol of vital currency that's minted. And now it's not even minted, it's numbers on an internet. It's literally ones and zeros in the internet and the airwaves. That's, I think, is the fundamental problem, is we have allowed the symbol, which is the abstract and very potent, powerful idea, to become disconnected from the idea that this is life energy we're exchanging, and that if a society is to work, everybody needs to have a certain supply of this, whether they're a musician or a doctor. We need it all.
Those are the reasons that I'm excited about blockchain technology, because when Leonard was speaking about alternative and complementary currencies, this was before there was a Bitcoin, when he started speaking about it. And now there's a currency, there's many different currencies. Now, not all cryptocurrencies are the same. And I'm not gonna go down a rabbit hole of cryptocurrency right now, but it's just another way that the people have been able to print their own complementary currency and exchange amongst each other. And there's ways being worked on right now for the unbanked. That's what you were speaking about, the people who don't have financial services or can't have access to the same financial services as others. Those things are being put into place now. Some in a more some are controlled by the same bankers that Leonard and us don't jive with, but some is controlled by we the people. Like I have cryptocurrency miners. I'm printing alternative currency here, and that's what this did for me. By printing these and trading these all around, like I literally traded these for Federal Reserve notes, for cannabis, for clothes, for all types of different things. And it's like an NFT. This basically, NFTs are non-fungible tokens where you get one, and it's basically a certificate of ownership. Now, this one doesn't have, anybody can counterfeit one of these. You know what I'm saying? But that was what Leonard wanted. Leonard wanted us to print up as much of this as we could, and then play the monopoly game by learning about what does a negotiation, what does a transaction mean, what does value mean. And I learned it really well through playing this game that Leonard taught. And that's why cryptocurrency began to make so much sense to me.
John, can I just interject for a moment? Because you were talking about that, playing that game. He's got a book called Public Dividends. I have it available on leonardor.com, and it has the money in it. You can actually read, you get the whole training of it right there. You can read it, you can print the book and share it or sell it and distribute it. It's there for everyone to use and profit from.
The game. Yeah.
Play the game. Yeah. Thanks. Go ahead.
Simon was also putting his hand up.
Yeah, money is, I say, it's something that moves us all. So much of humanity's efforting is spent trying to return the bankers' unable to be returned numbers, which seems very foolish. One of the things I'd like to say, I'm glad Jahn mentioned the fact that some of the cryptocurrencies, because again, if you look at the word crypto, secret, I think the last thing that our money needs to be is more secret. I think we need to be more open with our money, more honest and clear with our money, less crypto, in fact. Again, when you buy into money, what are you buying into? You see the rise of Bitcoin, but Bitcoin has got a criminal past. It's been used, you know, whether you agree or disagree with some of the things that have been used for its use, it was used as a criminal exchange amongst criminals. So again, I think we're being led, I think we're in a time where the money system, I think, in fact, if I'm honest, I think much of the noise of the world is cover for the exchange of the monetary system that's currently going on. They're moving us from bonds and gilts to blocks and chains. The chains are still around us. If we move this way unconsciously toward, which seems to be the way we're moving towards our cryptocurrencies, our secret currencies, then humanity's got, it's not the road I would be choosing to pass down. One of the things, I know I'm talking a lot, I apologize. I think it's one of those things that it's two settings, on or off, with my talking. But to me, it's one of the things that Peace mentioned, it's the distribution. And I think the point we need to make is when new money is brought into existence, it has, you know, it's like new numbers typed into the street. How that is initially distributed is the most, I use the prism of truth, simplicity, and love with money as my goal. How could I get it as simple and as truthful and as loving as I could explain it? And the way I've managed, the closest I can get to it, is at the moment we're under a triangular trickle-down system where all of the new money is placed right at the top and then is trickled down, spent down into the disgusting world that we see with much of the money that we get at the moment. The opposite of a trickle-down pyramidal system would be a circular growing up system where the new money, instead of being distributed in one lump, is distributed equally amongst those that play with the money. And then the money would flow inwards and grow towards what humanity wanted. I think if we can get, to me, that's the simple, I'm going to stop now because I know I'm raving and ranting.
That does
but I wanted
happen.
that point clear.
That does
And
happen.
that was exactly what Leonard was all about, because in every training we were talking about how to distribute the money equally and fairly and rationally. And so he called that the rational money system. So I think his idea was just that there was something else in place than the bankers. And we can see how that is also producing similar results, because if it's not based on ethics and truth and simplicity and love, like you're saying, it will just have the same effect. So we have to change our consciousness in that piece.
We talked about he talked about requiring a monthly supply, a monthly distribution, like the talk that they have now about a living
universal basic income.
How would you
distribute that to everyone?
In the same way, well, it would be going through the money system that we need to use to pay our rent, you know, our taxes, our, you know, right now we have to work with the system we have. We have to, you know, I always, you know, if we want to make a change, a snake grows a new skin before it tears off the old one. Otherwise you have a dead snake. So we have to build function in underneath, you know, build it before we can cast off the old. And right now I still have to pay, you know, maintenance to people. They have to be able to use the money, you know, the designated currency. So I think it's important to be working with that, you know, as well, until there's something else to replace it. And I've spoken to an economist, we're talking about a mainstream economist, and he was talking about basic income guarantee, and that if $1,000 a month were distributed to every person, it still wouldn't be quite enough to correct the imbalance and get it functional. But there's such resistance to this idea. And Leonard used to say, you know, distributing money, you know, who's going to benefit from that? The landlords, the shopkeepers, you know, it's going to keep the everyday business going. People are going to be able to pay their rent to the real estate holders, to
So
the
will
shopkeepers. So it doesn't
so
hurt anybody. It
To
just,
so
speak to
my
that, though, I think that it can be used, I mean, the resistance to it is that it can be used as a means of control and suppression and
Mhm.
removing freedom of choice. And so there's a real danger in it. So there's a very, there's a strong polarity happening there. There's the light side, the light attribute of it, and there's this shadow side.
we could
And,
talk to
so it
that.
has to be done with love. The love has to be in there also in the, but John, I just interrupted
Yeah.
you. So I
It's
want,
okay. It's okay. I'm just
Okay.
wondering what is the most practical way that we would ever be able to distribute a currency to everyone? Because would it be, who's the government? Will there be a centralized government that we all are part of? That's why I like crypto, because crypto, yeah, the word means secret, but most of the blockchain is all public. So that means that I could go on a computer and see where any transactions have gone. There are cryptocurrencies that are private currencies that you can do money laundering and crime with, but cash has been used for the same amount of money laundering and those things. So I'm not going to like, you can even use like, here's an alternative currency here. This is a gold back from New Hampshire.
Beautiful.
It's printed on gold, and you can even use alternative currencies from small communities like this to launder money. There's nothing, you could use Babaji money to launder money. There's any
Well, to
the
facilitate exchange without paying taxes on it. It's, I don't like to use this laundering. I understand there's a big problem with that, but we're not really talking about those degrees. We're just
Yeah.
talking about making communities work, and especially communities that are not on the chain. I lived out in Montana for a couple of years, and that community, where was the money coming in? There was one doctor who had his clinic set up in a small town. He did a very smart thing. He paid his employees, and he had clients coming in from around the world, but he paid his employees partially in USD because they needed that to pay their certain things, but also partially in what they called Chamber of Commerce notes. And those, they could use those, all the supermarkets, all the local merchants used it. They could only be spent locally. This kept the doors open to the merchants in the local, because he needed that. He needed this in order for that town not to die. And then the merchants turned it into the Chamber of Commerce, who gave them USD for it, and he supplied it. But he made a portion of the salaries that he paid in the form that had to be spent locally, because there was no, there were lots of ways that money was leaving the community, right? They get in their cars and drive to Costco and goodbye, right? But
I like to call it
separate?
back to from that one topic, and maybe I would suggest that you do a whole meeting on that
yes,
topic.
I would love it.
Because
start a think tank.
and Leonard would love it, because that was one of the main things that Leonard would also go on about in the training. And but I think we want to focus a little bit more on also on other ideas.
I want to, did I ever meet you in person, Simon? Were you ever at a training in Virginia with?
He was.
Yes, indeed. Yes,
That's
Jan.
you,
Yes,
Simon.
indeed.
It's so great to see you again, brother.
Yeah, no, it's good to see you, Jan.
Yeah.
So I would like to
Wow.
just toss out, not for discussion, but an online convention. If we can't do an in-person convention, then an online convention where we have topics assigned and people can join for the topic they want to discuss and send in articles, and we can, share those articles etc.
That would be a blast. We'll set it.
Okay.
Yes, I think it's
Thank you,
good
Pete.
to discuss all these ideas, because that is creating the new world if we put our heads together and share about these things. So Leonard was very interested in creating a new society or new ways of relating with each other, and that those ways of being based on truth, simplicity, and love. And definitely we will need a new money system and a new society, or values in the society. So
And one other thing I want to just put out there for people to contemplate is it doesn't have to be either or. It can be both. You can have this and that. They don't have to be, we can have a USD and a people's money or something. So.
Also, I'm going to put my email address in the chat box. And if any of you are willing to be interviewed on this topic, I would love to do an interview so that I can post it on the Abundance Affirmations channel. And it's just a one-on-one interview, me interviewing you and you telling some of these. Peace, yeah, I'd like to do you again. Peace, and I've done maybe one. But anyway, I'm going to put mine in. Please let me interview you.
Let's do it. I also have a podcast that I'm getting Peace on soon, but I'd love to get any of you on for a live podcast so we could share what we do and just keep Leonard's works out there in front of people. And one more thing, since you wanted me to share some scripture, some other scripture thing, this is the Siddha Siddhanta Padita, and this is one written by Goraknath. This is one of the most significant books written by Goraknath, and it's the one that this book that Leonard would use sometimes, the philosophy of Goraknath. It's like an expounding of this book, but it has a couple cool charts in here, and I wanted to just show this one chart where it has lokas. Lokas are the heavenly planets. I don't know if you could see this.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And on the body, it's showing that all of the heavenly planets are contained within the physical body. And that is something that I like to know, because I like to visit heaven and paradise and all of the dimensions inside me instead of going outside the body.
Beautiful. Maybe, John, you can take a photo of that and drop it in the chat if it's possible.
Yeah, let me see.
Okay, as we can go on from there. So thank you. Sound, they talk about the planets having their own vibration, frequency, or sound, and there's a lot with sound and sound healing. Mantra, that's be another great topic. So Heike, where would you like to take this now?
Well, I like this discussion very much. I just think this is just one of the aspects of all of Leonard's teachings, and we talked about the breathing and quality sessions, and now we talked about rational money system, and maybe we can talk a little bit more. So
neighborhood representation is an
okay,
ideal
go
word.
ahead with that. So we are some
idea.
of these topics seem to be difficult to grasp, because we think, okay, Leonard Orr, founder of Rebirthing Breathwork, but he was contemplating really the future. And so one of his main ideas was also neighborhood representation. So Peace, would you like to go?
Yeah, I haven't worked very much with it because it's really amazing. Well, first of all, it's the idea that to be able to put the people more effectively into the system of representation, and we can see now how it's being just so we're distracted from it, you know, and polarized. But when the idea of neighborhood representation is that in the community, everybody is in agreement to, you know, have Leonard used $100, was it a month? That groups of 1,000 people or get together.
$10 a month.
$10 a month. That was it. So $10 for $10 a month. A group of 1,000 people, do the math, can provide a salary for their chosen neighborhood representative who accumulates and kind of lobbies for the ideas that they would like promoted. You know, so it would be neighborhood lobbyists. And then you have regional meetings of those neighborhood lobbyists to form, you know, so you're talking about building voting blocks and lobbying enough people, enough votes in that voting block to come together and make a difference to someone who wants to get elected, right? And it's taking it outside of the money, it's taking it outside of the special interests and making those interests neighborhood, regional, state, and with power block lobbies. And it's only $10 a month, and it provides enough of a salary, you know, and now maybe $15 a month with inflation, that to provide a salary and expense account for travel budget, setting up meetings, etc. And there's a lot written on it, but I want to really highlight that idea. And if anyone else has anything else to say about it, I just want to say that I once went into a group of people who were meeting, and they were very politically active. They were activists, and I presented this idea, and they went like, "Great idea, but it will never work," blah, 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 and went right back into their poopy diapers, you know. It can't work, you know. I'm saying, okay, go sit in your poopy diapers, and then I you know, what do you do from that? So it's the mind, clearing the mind again. So that's what I'd like to say about that.
So, well, Leonard had he said that he talked about the 5 most important ideas of the century. And well, basically it came down to the main 3 are spiritual purification. And spiritual purification includes anything that that we do to clean our aura. So that includes the practices with earth, air, water, and fire. And it includes the cleaning with the mind, but he called that as one of the next pillars of rebirthing breathwork. That was spiritual enlightenment. And so spiritual enlightenment, Leonard's basic definition of spiritual enlightenment was that we are aware that energy becomes what it thinks about, meaning we are the energy, and whatever the quality and the vibration of our thoughts create our physical constitution, it creates our money system, it creates our prosperity level. And so spiritual enlightenment was the important aspect of our teaching next to the spiritual purification. And then the third one, that what we talked about, was the spiritual community and how to live as humanity in a new setting of values. And then when he talked about the 5 ideas, then the next one was the money system, the new money system, the new ideas of talking or developing our values and sharing, and everybody having enough. So the prosperity consciousness includes not just the individual being rich, but it means the care and the consideration for everybody on this planet. So prosperity is nothing selfish. It means how to take care of everybody on this planet, including Mother Nature as well. And so his ideas of prosperity were so big. It's not just localized or personal greed or benefit. And I have to think now of the fifth one. The fifth one was physical immortality, of course. How could I forget? So the idea, well, it's based on the spiritual purification practices and on the mind supporting that idea, but it's also like he had that as one of the 5 most important ideas of the century. So all this together, and he would always call his lectures like, you know, the title of the lecture was the 5 most important ideas of the century. And so so that's the richness of all his teachings. It wasn't just teaching people to breathe divine energy, and we heard that that power is still going on and transforming lives, but he till as long as he was healthy and participating in life. I mean, the last few months he wasn't so well anymore, but he was always considering those aspects. So I hand it over to anybody who would like to continue on that.
Well, it's just, I think just to kind of summarize, I'm sitting quietly and listening a lot today. It's just the space that I'm in. And I feel that, you know, he was so far ahead of his time in his thinking. And I mean, he impacted the world in so many different ways, actually. You know, I mean, he's considered one of the founding fathers of New Thought. He really popularized that. He's considered the founding father of prosperity consciousness, even having that as a concept. You know, he was working as a business consultant, and, you know, he was consulting Werner Erhard, who founded the S trainings. I mean, his impact reached so many different areas. I feel like we're just beginning to scratch the surface of his teachings, to even integrate them and let alone apply them. So it feels like this huge undertaking, really, to be looking at his materials and his teachings and going through all of these inspiring thoughts and ideas. I mean, just wow, you know, like wow. So it starts with the individual, you know, with the breath work, connecting to your natural divinity, accessing and actualizing your own natural divinity, and then it reaches out locally. You're then serving your community with truth and simplicity and love, and you become that presence and that center in your local communities. And then it expands out, you know, into neighborhood rep and becoming a responsible citizen and overcoming political apathy. And he's got, you know, the whole pathway laid out through the biggies of human trauma and all of the thoughts and systems of how to work with your mind and work with your consciousness through that. It's all supported by the elements. I mean, it's such a big, beautiful picture that he narrated for us and has left us with to study and to practice, put into practice and play with. I love what you said, Anne, earlier today about approaching this with joy. Otherwise, what are we doing here? We're not here like punishing ourselves, you know, this is fun. This is our life. You know, we get to be here and play and have fun with this. And that's part of also what spiritual community is about. We're here to support and uplift each other and increase each other's aliveness and support the creativity. So I'm also loving the creative ideas that are coming out of just our celebration today. We're just here to celebrate Leonard. And here we are ending up with this huge think tank about money and where do we move forward? I mean, it's just, you know, it's so alive in us. I love it. So I just wanted to kind of reflect all of that back and, you know, just thinking and looking at the bigger picture and kind of just beginning to take all of that in and look at what richness we have to play with, let alone even just studying the scriptures, which Leonard spent, you know, decades doing his whole life, really. He was a student of theology in college, so this was his life's work.
And the amazing thing that most of us, his ideas were so conflicting with old thought forms just the idea of physical immortality, or the idea of emotional energy pollution, or the idea that we can create our reality with our mind, and the mantra. I realized this afternoon we have, thanks to Anne, she also brought it in. Leonard was totally into mastering his own mind and tuning into the divine reality. And so all these concepts were something that were like, when he started in the 70s, they were just at the beginning. The people before that wouldn't really, only in secret circles would think about those things, but to make that mainstream and open it up for everybody accessible. And then of course the internet makes it even more viral and into the thoughts piece.
Yeah, I want to just say there's some piece of this, that as big and extraordinary and far-reaching as and impactful as these ideas are, they come out of such purity and innocence. And of course, there's everything, that happens in the daily world, the dross, right? But when you think back to the story of how Leonard first, was attracted to the idea of physical immortality when he was 18, and he, and studied becoming a born again Christian, and how Christians don't die. And then it's like, he was invited to a funeral. It was like, what do you mean? This guy died, because he had been reading the scriptures, and he was saying, no, this is about physical immortality. And everybody else was like espousing this scriptural, just like repeating it back and forth as some abstract, as some, I don't know how they had a relationship to whatever their relationship is. But his search began, with this such innocence, and he brings that, I find his questions get right down to the essential question, the very pure, he asks a very pure question, and then explores for he contemplates it and goes from there. And I just love that about him, because as a lot of his methods, he was able to look at something and come out with something so simple. And it's like, well, why wasn't that obvious? Why wasn't that obvious? Like, I love his formula for forming, teams, right? We're at this, everybody's going to break up into teams and rebirth each other. Okay, who has already had X amount of sessions? Who has had no sessions? The one with the least amount of sessions picks first. It's just such a brilliantly simple idea, and at every training, no matter where you are, you just ask these questions, and boom, 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 the teams form themselves. Practically, they form themselves. And I love the simplicity of his solutions.
One time I was thinking to create another name for an aspect of my business or my work. And so I was thinking, how could I name it? And I told Leonard about it, and he said, just keep it simple. And I was like, okay, I can drop all those thoughts. And, whenever he said something, it was really what you're saying. It was so simple, and yet so profound in handling life. And so as a friend, just running my ideas by him was always like recontemplation. He always had such a brilliant idea to anything that I was thinking about, and I really valued that in the relationship with him.
I wanted to bring up, I know I'm jumping in, but it
Yeah,
seems
no,
that you have to jump in, and it's a topic of Leonard's that we haven't talked about. And when we were doing an earlier breath work or meditation, the question was, is there anything you feel like Leonard wants to be brought up? Now, of course, it could be my imagination, but it felt like Leonard said that to talk about the parental disapproval syndrome, because he was not loved and cherished by everyone. A lot of people got very upset with Leonard and just thought he was outrageous and flamboyant. And what he taught us, I think, with really acknowledging that people will disapprove of us. He didn't say, okay, well, people just disapprove of me, I'm going to pack my bags up and go home. He didn't tone it down. He didn't become less outrageous. He just kept with the truth that he knew it. And I think that's a very good role model of the whole system or idea of the parental disapproval syndrome.
I am highly pleasing to myself. I am highly pleasing to myself with other people.
In the presence of other people.
In the
Yes.
presence of
Yes. I
other
mean,
people.
he had a daringness that I wish I had so many times, because I was thinking about what other people would think and do and respond to my thoughts. And it's not that he didn't care, but he wouldn't allow that to alter his action or his thoughts. That freedom to really be himself and do what he felt was in his divine calling, no matter what anybody else thought about it, just being true to himself and taking care of himself and speaking what was coming from within him and was in his mission. Yeah, thank you. That was totally truthful.
I think that Leonard really, what I learned from him is he was so uninhibited. I think he really had transcended the parental disapproval, at a level that most people haven't even begun to consider. I mean, because he would just take, in the moment, taking care of, what following his intuition and his guidance. I'm remembering a time when we were on a rickshaw ride in India, I don't know, somewhere in northern India, and it was Gujarat at the Meeting of Immortals. And we're all on this, I don't even remember where we were going, but it was planned and we were going to go somewhere to do something specific. And just out of the blue, Leonard whistles at the driver to stop, and he hops off the rickshaw and takes off into the crowd, leaving everyone, his wife included, on the rickshaw. And we're all going, should we follow? Should we stay? And he was just spontaneous and in the moment in that way, and very uninhibited. And I think it's a level of freedom that, that could plug people in, because, he wasn't about holding people's hands and taking care of necessarily at all times. And I say that with a little caveat, because he could be very caretaking and hand-holding at times and supportive of people and trainees that needed other rebirthers and things. So yeah, it was very fun. I'm also thinking, I think I want to play a little bit and tell some fun stories about Leonard, because I'm also thinking of a time when we were hiking in Spain. It was a training with Mavi, and we did this wonderful cold water rebirthing, and then went on a hike on a mountain. And the pathway, if I remember correctly, there was the parking lot, and the trail made a loop around the mountain and came back to the parking lot. And we were with a group and walking along, and Leonard decides to turn around and go back in the other direction, and said, go on without me, I'll be fine. So we're all walking along, and 10 minutes goes by, 15 minutes goes by. No one has seen Leonard, and people start losing their minds, because we are probably 3/4 of the way back to the parking lot already. We were very close to the end of the trail, and people thought that Leonard was lost. Should we go back and find him? And then other people that know Leonard and have traveled with Leonard were like, he's fine, it's okay, just let's keep walking. And so there was all this drama and emotional and mental turmoil happening in the group. we get back to the parking lot and Leonard's sitting there sipping, I don't know, a cup of tea or something, drinking some water, just hanging out, having a good time. But we couldn't figure out, how did he do that? Nobody saw, he didn't pass the group and go ahead of us. He didn't have enough time to go back on the path. It was a mountain. There was no like shortcut trail anywhere. So it was just totally outside the framework of everyone's mind. So you can just imagine that experience, how do you even register that or integrate that when you see with your own eyes and you experience phenomenon? And
yeah,
I
the
think
magical disappearance trick, and
Yes.
especially in India or some places, I was always trying to hold on to Daddy because I knew, if you don't watch very closely, he just disappears. So, but then he did it anyway.
yes, yeah.
The inner child is lost within the feelings of
Abandonment.
behind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a story of us. One of the first trainings that I did, I think I was living in Campbell Hot Springs in '91, the last year of it. And then we went to Europe doing a tour. And so we were in a training in Germany, and we were all sitting there like the typical German style and just watching and listening to the leader. And suddenly Leonard jumped up and down and he was screaming. He said, "You are all dead! You are all dead!" And everybody was like in shock because, that feeling, you don't dare to speak up, you have to hold yourself back because you might get a reaction or you get disapproval. And so we were so stifled. And then Leonard had us each one individually stand up and sing. And so we had to think, Jai Mahamaya Ki, Jai Jai Mahamaya Ki. But it broke the spell, everybody really had to express themselves and be free of fear of disapproval or make wrong. And that was, people became so alive in the training because he was giving them permission to get over those fears of disapproval. So yeah, that's a great topic to talk about. And
fun to see him burst into full-on opera style singing at Sierraville in the woods. We'd be out at our circle time and it's, he's talking and you can feel everyone's stuff coming up and it's getting dense and kind of heavy and quiet. And, he would let that sit there and kind of like a cloud and then just burst out, singing opera at the top of his voice and it's echoing through, the forest. It was just really beautiful. And that was my first experience of Leonard really as a person. I had my 9-day training, but when I went to, I lived with him for about 6 months, he and his previous wife, Isabel. And when I went in, I would go in the mornings around 10 o'clock and, Leonard would be in the bath however long he needed to be in the bath. It was never a set time or set schedule, but typically around 10. And so some mornings I would go in to start working and he'd still be in the bath and then he'd run the shower and he'd finish up and he'd be listening to RT or whatnot. But sometimes he'd turn the cold water on for a cold, because he'd always rinse in cold water. And he would kind of shriek like a woman in the shower or Om Namah Shivaya, or just shout, and it just, even in our own homes, I realized this because I was raised Catholic, and very inhibited. So like even in our own homes, we're inhibited. And Leonard just really demonstrated this freedom of being yourself and freedom of expression, bodily freedom, expression in voice. So it's just it was very fun to be around that and very liberating. And yes, it gave people permission to be themselves, to be that also. Thanks.
Yes, being around him, like I spend a few months every year with him, and being around him, being a day around him was like a week or months in life without him, because there was always something going on, and there was always something to go deeper into, and in the richness of his thinking and the experience around him. We do have an interview with Sandra, and but if there's anybody else, I mean, Jahn, anything else that you would like to share?
There's just one little tidbit related to breath work I have wanted to bring up, is that has anybody seen that the Rick Strassman research that said the lungs produce the most DMT in the body?
No, I didn't see that.
I haven't seen that, but I'd be very interested.
So yeah, Rick Strassman, he the one who did the Spirit Molecule book and the movie, and in his research he found that the lungs produce the most. A lot of people think it's the pineal, and that's where maybe the visions or the things we see come from. But I've began to experiment from what I've learned about it, and it feels like it's microdoses of DMT that we're able to juice in our body when we're doing the connected breathing rhythm, and that it's like basically like DMT is sort of like a piezoelectric crystal. So that means if you squeeze a crystal, it releases its charge, and it's the pressure that we put on it. And in the same way, the pressure that we're making with just keeping the breath flowing in our lungs, I think it produces that charge of the DMT in our being, and that may be one of the reasons why we have similar psychedelic experiences.
Beautiful. I understand that DMT is released at the moment of birth, so that could also explain why such vivid and clear birth memories can surface so easily.
And they say at the time of death as well. So that may be why we are able to clear the death urge with it as well.
Beautiful.
And nitric oxide through nasal breathing, nitric oxide through nasal breathing. These are another points. I don't have much to say about that, but I wanted to bring that up.
It's true, and humming increases that as well, the nitric oxide.
That reminds me, my first time with drugs was with Leonard, I think, where we did mushrooms. And it's like, what? So we're doing a rebirth. I'm doing a rebirthing training with him, and somebody gives him mushrooms, and he's like, well, why not? And so everybody in the training got mushrooms.
Hey, I didn't know that. I didn't know he ever went down the psychedelic route.
I don't know that he did specifically. I remember that we were in Kansas City and we were staying at a chiropractor's house, and he didn't produce them, but somebody did. And he's kind of like, he's like up for anything. It's like, why not? And so we did mushrooms, and it was pretty wild.
Well, Leonard used to share that he was sitting with people when they were taking LSD, because they felt safe in his presence. He wasn't taking it, but he would hold space for people in the early days. So he was open to the people experimenting with it, but he didn't choose it as his path. But he was open to doing ayahuasca, but he never got around to it. But we had friends, rebirthers in Brazil, who were doing it, and he was contemplated. So he wasn't close to the idea, but he always felt that on our natural divinity we can get high, and on the breath we can get high, so we don't need any substance to produce that.
I just want to say that in recent years, I've had a number of people coming to me who have had these experiences that wanted an alternative, or also to see if they could integrate some of that experience. And it's just been amazing. They've really, one person relived the experience, but was able to remain conscious and present. And he was still having the big physical reaction, but he was able to integrate the message. And he felt that it was extremely powerful and very different from being in a drug-induced experience to being in a breath-induced experience and being able to remain conscious witness to that experience.
Yeah, because like we could still drive or do dishes or clean house like right after that, or even during while it's going on. But if you've gone off the ayahuasca, the way I look at those things are like they're rebirthers. A bunch of mushrooms, that's sitting with the rebirther. Ayahuasca, that's sitting with the rebirther. Peyote, you're sitting with the rebirther who's gonna help you get past your blocks if you keep breathing. But Leonard, I thought he didn't need any because he had the most hallucinogenic psychedelic pants already. So
Yes, he did.
I don't think he did use it as a rule. It sounds like that was like a why not one time thing.
Well, he may have not taken them and just held space for everyone there. I think that would be typical Leonard too. We don't know.
Right, no,
for
he
sure.
didn't take it, but he said that Babaji would give people the bang, the marijuana thing, and Babaji actually gave people little chocolate cookies or something and to just open the mind and get and open the perception. So it's and so Leonard was like giving he wasn't disapproving of anything. He had a preference in what he would do and what he wouldn't do.
Unless you asked
that
him.
included the LSD.
I heard some disapproval, and I think where it came from for him was where it was very, if it was recreational and if people were dependent on it, and I heard him be very disapproving in that.
He was just pointing it out, but he wasn't disapproving.
So he never disapproved of me, but because he would come here and I would be blazing. I would be blazing enough chalice, and he wouldn't disapprove. And when I asked him once, I said, so what do you think about it? And he said, Babaji said that anything that interferes with your relationship with him or with God, you need to cut that out. And that was pretty much the gist of it from my memory of paraphrasing what he said.
I should backtrack. It's not disapproval. It's what would you even call that? Acceptance and loving and guidance.
He was just pointing out the consequences, and he would always say that people, when they're using a lot of drugs, that they suppress their emotions. And so he didn't say you shouldn't be doing this, but he pointed out if you use marijuana or anything, then ultimately you will not be in touch with some of the aspects or the essential aspects of your emotional and physical and mental bodies. And
he saw when Phil Lout left his body, that's one thing I remember. I asked him, I was like, what happened with Phil Lout? And he said he was smoking too much bud.
Phil also smoked a lot of cigarettes too. But I was pretty close to Phil, and I really loved him. And he was actually my coach for several years. I
love him too.
But through even what he did, whatever he did and everything, he's a wonderful person for sure. Yeah. And
well, if you ask Leonard permission, if you should or shouldn't, he might give you. I remember one person, someone said, "Oh, I thought I saw this at the training center," and he did not condone. He couldn't, because he didn't want his training center to be in jeopardy. So if that was something he was very clear about in terms of it not being something he encouraged, so.
Well, I'm going to change the topic just a tiny bit, and that is that Leonard had said I asked him about group rebirthings, and he says, absolutely not. Do not do group rebirthings. Do paired rebirthings. He said, they're too hard on you. Do not do that. And I told that to some rebirthers who did group rebirthings, And I know, let's see, 1, 2, 3, and all of them died. Just saying. And I mean, they died young. And I had
Right.
said,
I
Leonard
think
said,
the
do
best
not do group rebirthings, do paired or 3 in a
the
group.
best way that I've learned, because I like to share in groups, but I don't like to do a group rebirthing. I tell people, if I was a midwife, I couldn't tend to all your births right now. So let's keep that in mind. And now let's go through all of these breathing techniques. And so we'll do the first, we'll do what we did here with at the beginning with a few more. And we always take breaks in between, check in with people and talk to them. It's more so of a breathing tools, a rebirthing tools class. And then that people are able to, if they want to take sessions later on, they have all of this arsenal already to play with.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, it's 8 o'clock now, just to keep a little bit the timing, and maybe anybody who would like
Well-
to share the last words or a
Yes.
sentence of wisdom.
I'd like to share something, maybe not words of wisdom, but it just kind of segues off of where the conversation went in discussing, the techniques and utilization of individual sessions. And I have a interview that I did with Leonard in 2016, and thought I had lost it, but found a backup, which I'm so grateful for. And it's just an hour and a half of me interviewing Leonard about breath work and the technique. And in that, he gives a very good explanation that is not disapproving at all. It's not inflammatory. It's just, why do we do individual sessions, and why he chose that path and went down that path. And he gives really eloquent and wise answers. It's a beautiful interview. I'm so grateful that I have this. I have it set up as a video, and I'll be launching it on September 13th. But I am offering it for sale because I do have a website, and I do have a business that costs money that's coming out of my pocket right now. And I want it to be self-sufficient at least, so that that can be continuing to be of service. But it's just a great resource for breath work and Leonard's breathing technique, and anyone that wants to truly learn that. So I'm giving 50% off today if people want to purchase it today. It's only $10.95. And it's on leonardorbooks.com. I'll be sending out some information about that. And there will be many more video projects, not all of them for sale, but there's more coming down the pipe.
So do they have to purchase it today for the 50 cents?
They have to purchase it today before midnight Pacific Standard Time. So you've got, what is that? How many hours? Another 12 hours.
Okay. And is
So
it up and ready to go already?
They can purchase it. The system for viewing it is not launched yet. I have a few, it's launching on September 13th, but you can pre-order it and be the first to get to see it once it's live online.
Great. We love to support you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Well, I love to support the community, and this feels like a really great way to do that, and to support these budding new rebirthers coming out that haven't gotten to learn from Leonard. This way they can still learn directly from him, in a sense.
So can you drop the link into the onto the Facebook group, into the live the recordings of today?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll do that. Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank
Peace.
you.
So we do have this interview. Maybe that interview can be going separately with a link.
Sure.
We can
yeah,
post
it
it,
can
sure.
post it into
Because-
the Facebook group.
Yeah, because so we have 2 hours here, and
I may put it up on YouTube also for people that aren't don't have Facebook accounts.
Okay.
So
And
look for
so
that in
how
the
would
Reba YouTube.
And how would they access that link?
I'll send out the replays in a newsletter, and
Okay.
I think we can upload it to our Reba YouTube account. So all of the videos for we can make a playlist of the 3rd annual
Right.
Leonard Orr Day.
Very good.
so, dear Leonard, I think we covered a lot of your ideas today in this day. And I just want to thank all of you, and I want to thank Leonard for enriching our life with so many profound and meaningful thoughts. He was a real original thinker and dared to think about anything possible and rethink what usually we just reproducing and repeating from other people. And that's one of the things that I really cherished about him. So thank you. And anybody else who would like to have the last word? Peace. Yes.
Well, I want to say I would like us all to close with a round of Om Leonard, Celebrate Leonard. Sing it within, you know that one? Yeah. Okay, good. Can we do that?
It might sound terrible if we're all singing at Zoom at the same time, but maybe two of us can try and the rest is muted while you're singing.
Well, how about Anne as the earliest member of the rebirthing community? You used to sing that one, right? Would you like to sing that for us? And would anyone else like to join in with her?
Well, maybe
volunteers.
Maybe you.
Maybe me, or how about Sarah?
I'll join in.
Jahn is a great singer.
Jahn, you want to sing with it? Do you know that one?
I don't know the song. I don't know, but I'm gonna join.
You'll know it after today.
Yeah.
We'll join in muted, and so Anne and Sarah will have your open mics.
And
okay.
I need to mute myself.
Right. 1 and a 2 and a Om Leonard, celebrate Leonard. Sing it with an open and a joyful heart. Om Leonard, celebrate Leonard. Sing it with a joyful heart. And in my center, I had a spiritual center that I had for many years, and we did birthdays. And so we did that iteration of the birthday song rather than happy birthday.
Ah, beautiful. Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you all so much.
Shivaya. Thank you, everyone. Blessings. Peace. Heike, you're muted.
We meet again on the 15th of November, and that will be specifically for physical immortality, because Leonard's birthday, the 15th of November, is our declared physical immortality day. And if you feel like you want to contribute something to that, listen to it, get inspired by us. The next meeting we will have will be Physical Immortality Day on the 15th of November on Leonard's birthday. See you hopefully all there.
Thank you. Bye.
Love to the whole community and everybody. I will finish the meeting now. Love to all. Bye.
Bye.